went to the queen to tell her her subjects had no bread. Do you know what she said?
Let them eat cake. We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of The Peasant's Perspective. Oh, it feels so good when I hit start stream and it's all zeros on my bar of viewers, and then slowly but surely, the first person shows up. Carlito and Tiffany. Buenos dias, patriotos. Patriotos? I don't know. Carlitos, good morning on Rumble. Glad to see you guys. That's 2 days in a row we've had a YouTube chat first. That's amazing. Glad to have you guys here. Hope you guys are enjoying your Wednesday. I can't believe it. You know, sometimes I just feel like the weeks fly by. I look at the calendar and I'm like, are we like a week into the month? I mean, it's the 5th. It's round up to a week, right? For Razor, good morning from Boise, Idaho. We're up before the politicians so we can earn the money they'll spend later today. That's right. You get to keep all the money you earn from when you wake up till 10 a.m. They get everything after that. So wake up early. Early bird gets the worm. There's an old Chinese proverb that says, if a man rises before the sun, he cannot help but make his family healthy, wealthy, and wise. So I try to get up early. And thank you guys for joining me. And I know why you get up bright and early. You're here for the simultaneous sip. So join me now for that. For the simultaneous sip. And all you need is a cup or a mug or a glass, a tankard, a chalice, a stein, a canteen, jug or flask, a vessel of any kind, and fill it with your favorite liquid. I like coffee. And join me now for the unparalleled pleasure of the dopamine hit of the day, the thing that makes everything better, the simultaneous sip, and it starts right now. The aroma is always better than the actuality. Sometimes that's how it feels having a podcast. It's fun, but it's not always as fun as you would think. Oh, last night I got to spend the evening at a election watch party. We had our primaries here in Washington State. So I went and joined a whole bunch of great fun Republicans and a handful of campaigns for an election party. We had dinner. We heard a bunch of speeches. And I will say this about at least my local Republican Party. If I wasn't the youngest person there, I wasn't far off by more than a few years. There were maybe 2 or 3 of us in our 40s. Everyone else was in their like 60s, 70s, and 80s. It was kind of interesting. Anyways, a lot of fun. For those of you that were there and are listening and you're in your 50s, I apologize. I must not have made eye contact with you. Or I just don't know your age. Ponyboy Markin says, hi, John Atakis. Good morning. Ponyboy says, good morning. And John Atakis, no sound. Sorry. No sound. What do you mean no sound? No sound. No sound, sorry. You're going to have to tell me what that is all about, because I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to. No one else has said no sound. Looks like all my microphones are on, so not exactly sure what's going on there. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump into this. So, obviously, Washington State, Spokane's close to home. It's just a couple hours to the east of me. I've got quite a few friends there, a handful of whom were affected by these evacuations and these fires. And as I mentioned yesterday, they do have a suspect under arrest. So let's check in with that and follow up on that story.
Where investigators have arrested a man they believe started the region's largest wildfire. He has a previous manslaughter conviction and is now accused of first-degree arson, as thousands are forced from their homes. Sarah Legre reporting live from Spokane, Washington for us on that. Sarah?
Hi there, Sandra. I mean, what you're seeing here is just a fraction of what was destroyed by the Old Trails fire. It broke out Saturday afternoon, and it's the fire investigators now believe was intentionally set. Take a look here. I want to show you more of this area. You're just seeing home after home left in ruins, and it's one of several neighborhoods in northwest Spokane within city limits that looks like this. Here's the man investigators say started it. He's 37-year-old Aaron Farinacci. He's a Spokane resident and now charged with first-degree arson. He's being held in the Spokane County Jail on a $1 million bond. The sheriff confirming yesterday he has a dangerous criminal background out of Arizona.
Mr. Farinacci is a convicted felon out of the state of Arizona. He has a felony conviction for manslaughter and a preceding arrest in the same case in premeditated murder in the state of Arizona.
Investigators arrested him Monday afternoon after serving a warrant at Farinacci's house. They found a lighter and waterproof matches while detaining and searching him. Investigators say a witness reported seeing a man near the tree line before spotting smoke. Now, early Saturday, with the help of 45-mile-an-hour wind gusts and hot, dry conditions, that fire grew very quick and became the largest in the Spokane area. Fire crews have since been working to fully contain 3 active ones burning here. They've collectively destroyed at least 700 buildings, forced nearly 70,000 people to evacuate, and burned more than 10,000 acres with 0% containment. Now, investigators have not yet linked the suspect here to the 2 other active wildfires burning here in Spokane County, and we do expect him to make his first court appearance from jail within the next few hours.
So there's a total of 3 forest fires that are affecting Spokane County, and one of them at least was started by an arson of some sorts. Wow. That stinks. It stinks super bad. It is not looking good over there in Spokane. I've seen some of the aerial footage, and it's just like whole neighborhoods taken out. You know, it's just like, well, I don't know. You know, for those of you that have been around a little while, maybe jump into the chats and let me know. Over the course of your life, have you ever seen wildfires in such close proximity? I mean, we had, you know, California has a couple wildfires every year, but where whole neighborhoods are burnt. Like we had Hawaii, we've had Washington, we've had California. I mean, this seems to happen every year. There seems to be some area where it's not a couple houses, it's not a few houses right on the fringe up against the foothills or something like that. It's like a whole neighborhood, like any type of barrier that other houses place between you and the wild, you know, the dry grasslands. There seems to be no barrier. And so tell me, do you guys remember seeing stuff like this or hearing about stuff like this in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s? Is this a phenomenon that's just been going on the last 5 years? I remember CNN saying the next big thing, the hysteria, is going to be over climate change, right? They literally had the COVID ticker up and they were counting off the deaths. Remember the purple screen? It was really fear-based. And simultaneously to they're doing that, James O'Keefe has an undercover video with the CNN producer saying the next thing's going to be climate change. We're going to use fear for climate change to drive ratings. Is this part of that? You know, is it that they're highlighting the stories they used to happen and now we don't hear them? Or is this like a more common phenomena? Never seen wildfires like this. When we replace our roof in a year or two, we're going to get a FEMA blue shingles. That's perfect. United Nations blue. That's what you want. United Nations blue. Okay. Another thing going on. This is really interesting. Donald Trump had his life put at risk twice yesterday. This is kind of wild. So first was on Marine One.
Investigating apparent air traffic safety incident involving Marine One yesterday. The helicopter, which was carrying President Trump, departed the White House for Joint Base Andrews, but commercial air traffic at nearby Reagan Airport was not halted before Marine One took off. Thankfully, the FAA says there was no dangerous close call. The White House releasing a statement saying, quote, Marine One flights are piloted by some of the best aviators in the world, and at no point was the president in harm's way. Investigating apparent air traffic safety incident involving Marine One yesterday.
I was just thinking about Carlit's comment about getting FEMA blue shingles, and I thought, you know, there might be some people here watching the show that don't know what he's referencing, the joke. I'm sure half of you did, but there might be a few that are like, oh, what's the point of the blue? Okay, when the Hawaii fires hit and the California fires, both of them had this thing going on. There were videos that circulated around the internet where there looked to be some sort of directed energy beam or weapon of some sort coming from the sky, directed down onto houses and things, and it would light them on fire. And so this was what allegedly explained why you would have a house and a car burnt down to the ground, and right next to it you'd have a tree that was still green. Now, personally, I believe that's because those trees are designed to survive forest fires because that's how their seeds spread and stuff like that. But putting that aside, it is kind of questioning. So then there were also incidents where, you do a flyover of some area that's just burnt to the ground, and anything that was blue survived. It just didn't burn. And so it was this idea that blue somehow refracts this energy weapon light. So that's the blue roofs, or paint things blue and you'll avoid the energy weapon. So interesting. Marine One had to be redirected, and the FAA has now got to investigate something. There was a near miss. Now I remember, I think it was my first week that I was in prison. There was a wreck in DC over the Potomac between a military helicopter and a commercial flight. So this definitely is a problem. It is a busy traffic zone, and there's lots of low flying helicopters in the area. So that's interesting. And then Trump makes his way to his destination, which was his golf course. And while he's there, he has another almost attempted assassination that happens to him. And I got to reshare the screen. Give me just a moment. Isn't this fun? Okay, so here he is. He has another attempted assassination. This gentleman tried to impersonate security personnel to get into Trump's location.
Throughout the grounds, taking photos and videos, and after searching his pockets, found a loaded magazine with hollow point bullets. Feds say when he was approached, the man claimed he was working for the State Department and was part of a security detail. Agents then searched his vehicle, which was parked in the golf course parking lot, and recovered a loaded pistol and another loaded magazine. Deputies also later searched his home, finding an illegally modified AR-style rifle, along with a .45 caliber pistol, body armor, high-capacity magazines, ammo, and multiple notebooks containing concerning statements. He's now facing 4 state charges and a federal charge of possession of an unregistered rifle. The Los Angeles Sheriff's Department has not mentioned any direct threat to the president, who safely hosted an RNC fundraising event last night at the golf club and reacted to the arrest on Fox News at Night.
There was a threat. There was a man who was arrested, seemed to be heavily armed near the property here on Sunday. It's an ongoing concern, sir. Talk about that for briefly, if you can.
Well, the only thing I get a little solace from is they say only consequential presidents. And I am definitely consequential.
The arrest comes just 5.
He is definitely consequential. That is for sure. So the interesting thing about this, so I think that these threats against Trump, now the FAA thing, that seems to be easy to just chalk up to, air traffic control error. I don't know. Maybe if we had some kind of metric, how often do these mistakes happen? It just happened to be today. It was with Marine One. I don't know. So it's really hard to know, if that one's some attempt on Trump's life. Obviously, there was something funky going on with Air Force One a few weeks ago. But the fact that this person's going to a place where Trump's going to be taking pictures, being super suspicious, it is pretty hairy. And then, of course, when they go back to his house, what do they find? Illegal stuff. Now, in fairness, I have a few friends that if you search their house, you might find, unregistered guns and things like that. Now, unregistered guns because they were heirlooms passed down through generations, not because, they took off any serial numbers or anything. But nonetheless, it's like, man, well, note to self, don't go act suspicious and then claim to be a State Department security guard when you get caught. That's pretty rough. So now the thing that I'm suspicious about are these different incidents? Because you have to imagine if a president's on the move a lot, and I've heard Dan Bongino mention this in the past, there's kind of constant continuous security threats, right? Every day there's threats made online. Every day there's emails sent to the White House. Every day there's phone calls made. Every day there's bomb threats and things like that. And then they have to go through a triage, assess the threat, assess the capacity of this person to go through with it. Is this a crime that they've committed by making this threat, or is this somehow fall under protected speech? They have to go through this threat matrix, right? And then, of course, you have the things that just pop up, like the guy who shows up taking pictures at an event, or the person who just drives across the country and then shows up at a correspondence dinner and rushes in. Like they miss that stuff because it's not germinated online. They're not forecasting what they're going to doing, at least not directly. They might post an X post. Anyways, so you can see how there's a possibility that every single day there are these minor little incidents, like this gentleman being arrested at the golf club. This could have happened, gone on, and not a single news report could have been given. It could have just been, on a court docket somewhere and nobody's paying attention. So I don't know. I don't know how often this happens, but let's assume it happens more frequently than we, the American people, believe. Let's pretend it's a frequency of once every week or two, some serious incident arises where someone has to get arrested, right? The threat is that big. So if that's the case, you could easily see how the news media might scoop up these stories and turn around and package them into a narrative that Trump is extremely unpopular. Now, the jury's out on this. Is Trump popular or unpopular? Do we believe the polls or not believe the polls? Are elections pretty close to the Americans' population consensus, or is there 2, 5, 10, 20, 50% cheating in the elections? Nobody knows, right? Nobody trusts surveys. All we can really trust is boots on the ground. And that's very geographically based. Depending on where you live, the zeitgeist might be one way or the other. But CNN is, and one thing you'll hear Trump mention all the time is his poll numbers are great. My poll numbers are great. My poll numbers are great. Well, CNN and Harry Enton yesterday cast some serious doubt on that. Let's check this out. Who knows if Trump is as popular as he thinks he is?
Trump thinks his own polls are good. He is simply put not on planet Earth. He is on some planet far, far, far away in a galaxy far, far, far away. I mean, just look at this. It has been a steady decline, like a slide going into the sea. You go back January 2025, +6, May of 2025, -7, September of 2025, -8, December of 2025, -13, April of 2026, -17. And now in an average of polls, he is 21 points underwater. This is the lowest he has been in term number 2. The bottom line is this: Trump is at record lows for himself in term number 2. He is very much underwater despite whatever he is claiming up in his head of his.
A slide going into the sea. Evocative imagery there from Harry. When did this slide begin?
When did this slide begin? When did Trump slide into the sea begin?
All right, I want to show you this. Here's something. So if we're looking on the screen, if you guys can probably barely read it, but it says source. So it's Trump's net approval rating, right? Now, Harry Enton, he's on TV. He's a credible authority figure when it comes to assessing polls, maybe even doing polls. I have no idea what his bona fides is. But here I'm looking at source and it says Enton's aggregate. So Harry Enton created this, and this is what I don't even know his name. This CNN, anchor is mentioning. Oh, you just put this together just now, which is what makes me think, reading between the lines just a little bit, in fairness, is this narrative casting? Is this selectively grabbing the polls that are negative to kind of pull this rating down to go along with this narrative? Remember, just the other day we had a guy at the GOP get up and Trump's extremely unpopular. Iran. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I haven't talked to people and I haven't felt that, but maybe it's the case. Polling's reflecting that allegedly, but I'm just looking here and I'm going, is this narrative casting? Are they getting ready for a midterm? Is this the free media that the Republicans are always accusing the Democrats of doing? Trump had 93, 97% negative stories when it came to legacy media. Is this part of that narrative casting?
I mean, just take a look here. I mean, it'd be one thing, again, if we were talking about just one poll, but we're talking about the average of polls. But when we're talking about one poll, is there any poll that has Trump anywhere close to positive territory? Take a look here. Trump's negative net approval rating. Every single poll that meets CNN standards for publication has had Donald Trump underwater in the negative since March 29th of 2025. Days in a row, it is 494, nearly 500 days in which Donald Trump has had a negative net approval rating. He's not any.
So he said polls that meet CNN's standards to be published. I don't know that CNN publishes Rasmussen polls, right? I started thinking about that. I was like, what does that mean? Does it mean that it has the bias they want? Like, what does that mean? I understand, these people aren't scientific or they're doing internet polls. I get that. Easy write-off. But if I was to look at their list of polling companies, is Rasmussen included in that? Or is this pretty much limited to the biased left polling companies that seem to be more about influencing public opinion rather than documenting it? super sus.
We're close to positive.
The Lou Gehrig of presidents.
He is the Lou Gehrig, the Cal Ripken of negative ratings.
But people would say, hey, look, the president had low approval ratings in his first term also.
Not this low. Not this low. Take a look here. Trump's net approval rating at this point. In term one at this point, he was 12 points underwater. He is now broken the 20-point barrier in the negative, minus 20 points. And I always love a little nugget here. Goes from -8 to minus 47 points with independents who are driving this.
And what do the prediction markets say this means about his chances of maintaining control of the House?
Yeah, okay. If you have a negative 21 net approval rate, no way your party controls the House if this holds until Election Day. Chance to win the House. Democrats now up to an 84% chance, up from 73% just a few months ago. Republicans now with just a 16% chance, according to the cash prediction markets. Trump's negative net approval rating is driving this.
Harry, and the viewers will never know how hard you had to work to get this on the screen at the last minute, programming the data right before we came on air. We appreciate you. We have a lot of news this morning. We'll be right back.
That's kind of funny. It makes me wonder if he was, this is the result I need. Or was he just, making the slides? I get that. I'm a presenter. I have to make slides sometimes up until the last second. Okay. So again, we don't trust the polling companies, but then when the polls are in our favor, I'll be more than happy to play a clip. So what's the deal here? I don't know, man. I really don't know. That's one of the things that I have recognized for many, many years now is it's really hard to have a metric of what's really going on out there. America is extremely divided. And it's divided in kind of a weird way. It is a bell curve, 100%. The vast majority of people are right in the middle, agree on 90% of stuff, and there are your kind of margins. And there are some litmus test type issues that, depending on your answer to certain questions, like abortion questions or, is taxation theft? Like sometimes your opinion on those is going to shape. If you have an opinion that taxation is theft, you're never going to think taxation's a good idea, right? But if you have an opinion that taxation's not theft, it's your patriotic duty, you might be on the left, okay? So anyways, there are some litmus test issues where you can at least decide which side of the center line people are on, but most people are going to fill in around the bell curve. Not that much difference between, well, actually, no, there is a lot different between John Fetterman and I, but most Americans, not that much difference. But I have seen the bell curves, right? I've met with Republicans and Democrats that when I mention I'm a J6er, it's met with kind of a, oh, well, that's unfortunate. What happened? Very middle of the ground response. Let me get the story. And I've met with people who are on the far right, and they're not that far right, but they're on the far right. Mention I'm a J6er. Now, I could have been a bad J6er. I could have been one of the J6ers that broke stuff or really hurt people. Right, Doug, who's in the chats? He said good morning earlier. There were some J6ers that are not like me. We are not all the same, okay? And the first thing, you're a patriot, you're an American hero. And I'm like, whoa, you don't know my story. I could be Ray Epps for all you know, right? And then the second thing is in the same day, I've had people come up and find out I'm J6 and basically tell me I'm a traitor, treasonous, and should rot and spend the rest of my life in jail. Same day, same building, totally different responses. So it is possible that depending on the polling, you get one side or the other. And that's where I have no idea. I have a strong impression, and I think it's backed by, valid evidence that conservatives and Christians are the vast majority of people in this country. And if they actually showed up to vote, we could overwhelm any kind of cheating. But the fact that there is cheating and the fact that there is a natural state of apathy when times are good, which in America, times are still good compared to where they could be, there's a lot of apathy. And people don't wake up until they wake up, right? Now, when it comes to government spending and when it comes to everything that our government's been up to, one of the things that happened yesterday is out in Philadelphia, there was a press conference by the DOJ where they announced new charges with regards to social healthcare fraud. And this is a jaw-dropping amount of fraud. And this is right in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So it's going to involve 19 defendants. I think the total amount of money is fairly significant. Let's listen to the Fox News reporting on this.
For 6,200 defendants nationwide so far, allegedly responsible for more than $45 billion in improper private and public insurance claims. Now, Philly has a large aging population that relies on federal health programs, so it could be a very vulnerable area for this. And officials, they've already been working behind the scenes with charges planned to be released today as well against 19 defendants involved in some really outlandish schemes. Now, Fox News has been told a little bit about some of these cases. I mean, this includes a home health aide who was billing for providing services while in jail. Another who investigators say claimed to be a person who was in need but was caught by federal investigators working a construction job. Home health care funds are intended to provide a lifeline for aging or disabled patients. It can allow a family member to provide that care if that's what fits best. But it's also, like I said, a really vulnerable system. It relies on the honor system. There's no direct supervision. The Justice Department, CMS, state attorney generals, they're now involved in making sure there's more oversight and arrests where need be. Guys.
All right, Alex Hoff, thank you.
Sure.
So now
I think that's, I think that's such an interesting thing, right? So they're like, so at the beginning it said it was like 6,200 defendants nationwide, $45 billion worth of fraud so far. 6,200 defendants. In Philadelphia alone, there's going to be the 19 defendants. Some of them were billing the government while spending time in jail for services clearly not rendered, right? Some of them were on construction sites claiming to be unable to work. I've actually seen that kind of fraud in person. So, some of them were on vacation, and it was an astronomical amount of money. They systematized that kind of fraud. In a government that allows that to happen, what's going on there is this is the weaponization of virtue. She also mentioned it was on the honor system, right? When you're a good person and you wouldn't lie and you sign a form that says perjury, right? If you sign it wrong, you take it serious and you put the truth on there and you assume everyone else does. And as long as everybody puts the truth, whoever's reviewing it, they don't need to go review anything because why would you lie? Your incentive isn't there. If we catch you, it'd be so much worse for you. Well, then enter mal educados, as they say in Brazil, badly educated, badly raised, poorly, socialized people who are like, well, it's not a lie if I don't get caught. And so they'll lie on those forms. And then pretty soon you have the illegal immigrant population who then straight up take advantage of the form because they have no respect for our laws or the honor system. Okay. And so it ends up being completely bloated. Yesterday we ran the story, 50% of the people receiving Medicaid or Medicare or Social Security or Obamacare is the way I interpreted the whole story. It was kind of the basket of services, but 50% of the people on Obamacare don't qualify. 50%. That's the honor code. That's weaponization of the people's virtue to cast a wide open door so anybody in need can come and get help. And with no spot checking, eventually people will take advantage of it. If you can get free health care by simply lying on a form and save yourself $1,000 a month on a premium, why wouldn't you do it? If there's no consequences, why wouldn't you do it? And this is the thing. Every collectivist country wants this. Why do they not punish the people that are on Obamacare? Because they're grateful that they're on Obamacare. The other thing, too, is if they have any self-awareness, they know they're cheating the system. So they don't want to put people in charge that are going to do exactly what Trump's doing. Go through and clean up the fraud. Okay? They're not going to want to do that because it could expose themselves or they're unknowing, but they know that the Republicans are going to downsize these programs of which you're benefiting. The Democrats have always focused on benefactors, a constituency that owes you one. Republicans have always focused on volunteerism and doing what's right in principle, and you get the loyalty that is more a principled loyalty, or the loyalty you'd have to a pastor than it is the loyalty you would have to an employer who pays you. That's the difference. Hence, the Democrat is a plantation party because they're providing room and board, and without them, you won't survive. That's the way they present things. Thundering Oak says, I know a guy who is disabled and gets disability who built a barn for his wife himself. No contractor, no hired workers. Exactly. Fully capable. If he can build a barn for himself, he could build a barn for someone else and go into business. Why is he on public assistance? Right? That's the kind of stuff that is a real challenge. So Donald Trump was interviewed last night in a little one-on-one, and he was being asked about communists, socialists, collectivists, the Democrats, right? Everything they touch throughout time has always had the same result.
I think it's crazy because they're going to ruin our country. They want to, I don't know if they want to. I think either they're very naive or they actually want to ruin the country. No matter where you look, go back 1,000 years with different names, anybody doing what they're doing and what they're espousing, everything turns out to ashes and junk and filth. You know, one thing I said the other day for the first time ever, never thought of it, But you go to these cities that are taken over by the socialists and the communists. They're always filthy dirty. They're disgusting. They're always dirty. And, I'm a clean person, and people I know are clean. They like that. And you are. I know you very well. You're very clean. But they're, aside from crime, aside from all of the other problems, no jobs, no anything, no money, they're always filthy, disgusting, dirty. And that's what you'll get. I think it's crazy because they're going to ruin our country.
Disgusting,
they want
and
to.
dirty,
I don't know if they
right?
want to.
Everywhere a collectivist is in charge is always filthy, disgusting, and dirty. I'm going to turn up my microphone just a little bit. Does that help at all? I think it's better. I'm not getting as much feedback as I would like. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm in a big open room or a garage or anything weird like that. Okay, so Trump's, everything turns filthy, right? Everything the collectivists, the Democrats, everything they touch and they're given time to run starts to turn filthy. Where I live, one of the local cities, Bremerton, just announced, their prosecutor announced that they're not prosecuting any theft crimes under $500. That's not as bad as the $1,000 in California, but $500, that's an open pass. I mean, I immediately, when I was told that new policy at our meeting, I was like, I'm going shopping and I'm going to Walmart in Bremerton, I mean, first 500 free. You can make it to your car, It's like, how ridiculous is that? One time I was in a Harbor Freight, which is a tool store. Okay. Many of you are probably familiar with it. I was in a Harbor Freight. I was on the clock, right? I was working. I was down there buying wrenches or whatever I needed for some job, or probably an excavator problem. I needed a specific, oil filter or something. Anyways, so I'm at Harbor Freight and it's the middle of the day. It's like 10, 11 a.m., something like that. I'm standing in line to buy my stuff and I'm swiping my debit card, and I'm like one of two people in the store plus one or two clerks. Okay. So one clerk apparently is in the back. The other clerk's at the cash register helping me. And I'm like in the process of swiping my card. And as I'm doing that, the other person walking in the store has tons of stuff. I mean, we're talking like a box, a bag, like walks out holding, arms out, holding stuff, like way more than what I just bought. And just walks out. And the cashier, who happened to be transgender, was like, sir, I did it again. He goes, he did it again. What do you mean he did it again? Oh, he just went out. He just shoplifted. And I'm like, okay. And she finishes ringing me out. He, whatever, finishes ringing me out. And I'm just like, okay, like you didn't chase after him. You haven't picked up the phone to call 911. I'm more than willing to wait. Like that guy just walked out with a couple $100 worth of goods at least, right? And who knows? I mean, it could have been $1,000 depending on what he had in those bags or boxes. And this guy's like, okay. And I'm like, are you going to call the police? He's like, no, he's done it before and there's really nothing they can do about it. So am I the idiot? Is paying voluntary now for stuff? Like, should I have just walked out with him? Like, you're not even going to call the police to get a report because they won't do anything about it. This was in Port Angeles, Washington, by the way. And I'm like, why did I just spend $45 on tools? I could have just walked out. Like, it was the most asinine thing I've ever seen. And Washington State, right? The only thing wrong with this state is the people who run the place. That's it. It's one of the most beautiful states in the union, period. It is gorgeous. People come here and are like, you live where people go to vacation. I know. It's amazing. It's where the oceans touch the mountains, or the mountains touch the sea, as they say. It is a great place. But the people who run this place are nuts, right? Just like Donald Trump said, everything they touch turns to crap. It turns dirty, ugly. And that is what's happening here in Washington State. We've even had documentaries like Seattle is Dying, right? We've had two former Democrat governors saying we don't have an income problem. We have a spending problem. Everything we're doing is a problem. This is a Democrat state representative. Okay. This is someone who's in Olympia shaping policy for a state. And we have the Democrat trifecta. We have almost a supermajority. I think we're 1 or 2 votes away from a supermajority for Democrats in the Senate and the House. We've got a Democrat governor and we have a Democrat majority Supreme Court. They have the trifecta. They have everything they need to do what they want. There's a tiny smidgen amount of resistance from Republicans and a smidgen amount of resistance from centrist, level-headed Democrats. This woman right here is on the DSA side of things. And she's talking about some of the policies that have been passed. She attacks the Democrat governor for being too soft. See, this is the thing. There is no middle ground with these people. She's at a chicken wing eating contest, which I think a little bit of the spicy food got her unhinged.
Natasha, can I get you to bite that spiciest wing? How are you feeling after the habanero? Honestly, you're not weeping. During your first term in the legislature, you passed a budget that included a $100 million increase for police recruitment, the largest police staffing increase in legislative history. How do you square that with your 2020 statement that, quote, police were created to return people escaping from slavery back to slave masters, are complicit in the worst gang this country has ever seen, and need to be defunded?
You can't. It's contradiction. When you enter this house in your caucus on the Democratic side.
Okay. So she's a total defund the police advocate because the history of policing is to return slaves to their masters. No, it's not. Police have existed as long as there has been civilization. There's always been some form of law enforcement. Sometimes they call themselves an army. Sometimes they call themselves the King's Court or soldiers, the King's Guard, the Praetorian Guard, the, civil service, blah, 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 the police. I mean, there's a million words for it. It's just law enforcement, policy officers, peace officers, sheriffs, deputies. There's a billion words for law enforcement. She's just defunded all because, it has at some point law enforcement was used to round up slaves. So, ipso facto bad. Do you see why everything turns to crap?
And you sign up for a team. What we did on that $100 million that Bob Ferguson shoved down our throats in order to play nice with the opposition, which is why I say take such a big issue with playing nice with the opposition.
Whoa. Bob Ferguson, who just shoved a millionaire tax, which is going to become a general income tax down the people of Washington state's throats. She's saying, well, he shoved a police funding bill down our throats. She's not wrong. There's no negotiating with these people.
I'm not trying to move toward fascism. If they want to hold shit down with fascism and salute Nazis, there's no center anymore. I need more progressives in the House so we don't have to take votes that we don't want to take. So I can be honest, not a vote I wanted to take, took it for the team. But we put guardrails around it. So what can you use it for? You have to do all this public health and safety stuff. You have to raise taxes in your community. You're not just getting free money from the government. We're going to monitor and regulate it. Law enforcement. Why? Because we know your history is slave patrols.
Whoa. So you're not just getting free money. We're going to monitor and regulate it. Okay, I thought that was part of the deal. If we're giving the money, we should monitor and regulate it. Oh, but the way the system operates is the honor system, and we really want to take advantage of you because all communists are totally committed to the revolution, which means destroy the state by any means necessary so we can rise from the ashes. That's exactly what she just said. We want the free money without the accountability. Free money without the accountability. But Bob Ferguson wants some accountability. Oh my gosh, are you going to make me defend Bob Ferguson?
And that's why they're using ICE right now to round up immigrants to deport them so they can bring in a new batch and do more slavery. How are they doing that? H-2A1 visas, where they're going to provide federal subsidized housing. They're going to displace the folks who are already already working on our farms. They're going to move out families like Tony's that have been here, and that's not okay. And so I'm going to stand up for that. And I'm going to make sure whatever money goes to law enforcement in my community, that I stand right there to hold them accountable. And I'm going to ask all of you to stand with me.
10 seconds.
All right. So we need to elect the most progressive candidates. Elect Luke, elect me, elect Aaron.
Wow. I think that habanero sauce got her going a little spicy. So she's basically saying, sure, we're going to fund law enforcement, but we're going to turn around and hold law enforcement accountable to not hold the people accountable of who we're giving out free money to because they have a history of, doing bad things with it, which is what she's referring to. And that harkens back to the plantation. So you can't trust us, but the system's an honor system. And when you break the honor system, then we can't trust you. And that's what we're seeing, right? Wow. Yeah, there is no middle ground anymore. Not if that's what the supermajority is, not if that's what we're dealing with. Now, Bernie Sanders was on CNN and he was being asked by a different Democrat socialist candidate up in, hold on a second. Hold on. Bernie Sanders was on CNN and he was given a chance to comment about a more controversial candidate that we have coming up. And this is Hassan Piker. He's not a candidate, excuse me. He is a pundit on the left. He is just a commentator, kind of like me, but a little bit bigger following, not as good looking, way more radical, not as entertaining, Hassan Piker. Anyways, Hassan Piker has made some absolutely grotesque statements. I mean, even if you're a 9/11 truther, you still don't say America deserved 9/11, right? Stuff like that. So Bernie Sanders is asked if he would disavow Hassan Piker. Now, this is the same Hassan Piker that caused James Carville to say he couldn't be in the same party as Hassan Piker. One of them has to leave. So this is Bernie Sanders kind of being posed with that situation.
To give you an example, one of the more controversial ones is that Piker has said America deserved 9/11. Are you comfortable with that association?
No, I am not. I think that's a dumb statement. On the other hand, he has a whole lot of followers, and there's a lot of things that he's saying that are making sense to a lot of people. I think, we have to get above cancel culture. When you're doing radio, whatever they do, podcasts 3 hours a day, you say dumb things. I suspect if you go back over your career, there may be one or two things that you said that you may have regretted.
Okay. In fairness, yes, I agree. And I'll actually grant that grace because I need a fair share of it myself, right? Say some dumb things, especially if you're like taking clips, right? I get it. I've watched the United States government take clips and snippets of things I've said and make them into something that they really weren't. Okay. I get it. Fair enough. Fair enough.
But I think what we have got to do is look at the totality of where people are coming from and go forward.
So when someone like James Carville says he doesn't want to be in the same political party as Hassan Piker, which one are you going to take?
Well, that's not much of a choice. If Mr. Carville doesn't want to be in my party, the party that I belong to, that Piker, that El Sayed belongs to, he can start his own party. But I think we need a big tent, and I think people like Piker should be welcome into that, certainly.
Okay, remember how I said there's a dividing line, right? Most people are in the bell curve. They're all pretty close to each other. You imagine a bell curve. But there is a dividing line, and there's some litmus test questions, right? You can ask an abortion question. That's going to determine if you're on the right side or left side. You can ask is taxation theft question. That's going to determine if you're on the left side or the right side. You can ask, is Israel a net good or a net negative? And, you could maybe, that's probably a bad question to ask. But either way, right? Point being here, there are some things that are litmus tests. And for example, saying things like America deserved 9/11, the litmus test isn't if you're a 9/11 truther, you think Tower 7 was a little suspicious, or maybe the Bushes were behind it, right? There's all kinds of conspiracies you can go down. None of them necessarily end with America deserved it. If you answer the question, yeah, America deserved it, you're on the left. You're on the side that's with the people over there that are like advocating burning it down completely. Okay, you're over there. So that is a concern. And I think that's what James Carville's saying. And I think that's what others like John Fetterman have been saying as well, is it's like, hey, listen, that when it comes to that litmus test, I got to pick my side. So I might be a lefty, and maybe the right-left spectrum is sliding right now, but I'm going to be on this side of the fence when it comes to that issue, right? When it comes to the bell curve, I'm going to side with the people that are more, something different than what I'm used to when it comes to talking tax policy. That is an important thing. So this primary season, which is kind of wrapping up right now, has been a real test to see if these far left candidates, these Democratic Socialist candidates, can prevail over more moderate Democrat candidates. The Republican Party has been going through this as well. Can the far right MAGA candidates prevail over more moderate, centrist establishment Republican candidates? And here's the thing. It's a mixed bag, at least on the right. You get some MAGA candidates, you get some establishment. Last night, we had a MAGA candidate, not the best candidate. I think has some shortcomings, but he was way more aligned with, some of the more strong stanced Trump policies than the other candidate. But the other candidate is definitely a little bit more moderate, definitely a little bit more of a conventional type politician. And she ran away with it. Okay. So out here, moderate, way better. Don't need to run with a MAGA flag out here to win. But in some places, you do need to run with a MAGA flag. So I don't know. But Michigan is one of those states that's an interesting one. It's got a significant divide between urban and rural. And I got quite a few listeners for Shantini, Thundering Oak, quite a few listeners up in the Michigan area. It's a divided state, not totally dissimilar to Washington. It's got rural areas and it has city areas. And the city areas have been dominated historically by manufacturing, lots of union type jobs, which have a lot of union Democrats. So even when America was relatively sane, Michigan was a state that would frequently go blue because of the union influence. Well, over the years, the unions and the Democrat Party have been open to immigration. And now you have Democrats in Michigan, like the Dearborn population, that are not Democrat because they're blue dog union workers. They're Democrat because they're on the take. They owe their ability to be there to loose immigration policies, on and on and on it goes. So Michigan, if you're a Michigander and you're legacy Michigander, there's a good chance you're a conservative, or a blue dog, right? But if you're a newer member or one of these urban people, it can be pretty split. So Michigan's going through one of these learning curves right now. Is this a rural state or is this a urban state? Is this a blue state or is this a red state? It also has some of the worst election laws. Between 2020 and 2024, Michigan is the only state that actually went backwards in election security. Every other state made some progress on election security. Even states like California and Washington, despite all the issues they did have, surprisingly enough, there were some areas where they tightened up. Not Michigan. They went the opposite direction. They had, signature verification. They got rid of it. They had all these halfway decent policies. They got rid of all of them. So everybody's kind of got eyes on Michigan right now because there's a race between an establishment Democrat and a far left DSA Democrat. And so we're all watching to see what's going on here. And again, it's very localized.
The race in the Wolverine state, the Democratic primary for Senate, remains too close to call. Far-left candidate Abdul El-Sayed is leading establishment-backed Haley Stevens by a little more than a percentage point. Both believe they'll each emerge victorious.
Whatever happens tonight, we have a responsibility to assure that we unite to make sure that Mike Rogers never sees the inside of the U.S. Senate.
If we are going to win this thing, which we are, we are going to have to get ready and show Mike Rogers what a little stick it to him looks like.
She is the most Michigan woman I have ever met.
Although the race has not yet been called, State Senator Mallory McMorrow is already congratulating and endorsing El-Sayed. McMorrow's name appeared on the ballot yesterday, even though she withdrew last month.
So in Michigan, it's too close to call as of this morning. We've got another race that has been called. This one's down in Missouri. And again, it very much matters geographically where you're at. Michigan's a state in the middle. Is it urban or rural? Missouri is still a rural state. It has St. Louis and it has Kansas City, both big cities. But for the most part, Missouri is still a rural state. Cori Bush, you might remember her. She was one of the squad members. She's out of St. Louis, a very liberal part of Missouri. Well, she ran. She lost her election last cycle. She ran again. She ran on a DSA platform, anti-Israel platform. She ran. She got trounced last night.
What happened? We said, could Cori Bush counter in St. Louis City what Wesley Bell got out of St. Louis County, which was about as good as he get out of St. Louis County? The short answer is she didn't. She's losing by 26 points in St. Louis City. So now we've seen it across the dividing line, and we have called this race. NBC News has declared that Wesley Bell, freshman Democrat from Missouri's 1st congressional district, has won renomination. He has defeated former Congresswoman Cori Bush, who sought a rematch after losing her seat to Bell in 2024. This one's decisive. Again, what you're looking at is, early vote in both these places. The election day vote may make this closer for Bush, but you've seen it now replicated across this divide here between the city and the county loomed very large in 2024. But in both places, again, we knew Bell would do well there. He's even up 26 in the early vote there.
So that's pretty significant, right? In the battle for the heart and soul of the Democrat Party, it looks like it's pretty undivided. I don't really know which direction it's going to go. Good news, though, when it does come to elections and, we take our wins in increments, is there's more eyes on this than ever before. After Trump's press conference, after everything Harmeet Dillon's been doing, after everything that's been going on the last 6 years since 2020 to address election integrity issues, this is pretty significant. The DOJ sent observers into Michigan to observe the election counting process. Now, this is, in my opinion, everything you do to deal with election fraud is on the margins, because everything happening in election fraud is one of 15 things, and there's no one single solution that stops all election fraud. But, to the extent that you can prevent Ruby Freeman situations or broken water mains or, stopping counting and ballots showing up after counting started, stuff like that. This is the very observable things, which we know for a fact happened in 2020 and probably in every election since and before that, right? Having observers, legal observers there would be a big thing. They did that up in Michigan. This is great news. Again, We take our wins in increments.
Just before we go very quickly, the Department of Justice is here. They have said, you tell me, what do you know about the Department of Justice that's been sent by the Trump administration this year? What are they doing? What are they saying? What do you know about the people that are here monitoring elections?
Real simple. We got a letter from the Department of Justice about a couple of months ago saying that they were going to be here at the Department of Elections during the August 4th election. We met with them. They said they were sending 4 teams of 2. They were here today. They visited about 5 sites, and there were no issues. There were no issues in terms of provisional voting, or there were no issues in voter-assisted terminal.
What did they do?
No interactions whatsoever. They monitored. They observed. They did not interact with any of our voters. They introduced themselves to our poll workers. They signed in accordance to the agreement that we made with the Department of Justice a couple of days ago when we met them via Zoom. So there weren't any issues. There were no controversies or confrontations. They did their job. We did our job, and we're moving forward.
That's great. They did their job. They did their job. We did our job. We're moving forward. That's great. Just let them in, let them observe. No issues. Remember Philadelphia when Pam Bondi and Corey Lewandowski couldn't get in and they had a court order and the sheriff said, take a hike. Stunning. Okay. Stunning. Sheriff's like, nope, not listening to the judge. You can't come and observe the ballot counting. Stunning thing. To the extent that Donald Trump's support has waned. My suspicion is this is primarily centered around the issue with Iran, right? The promise of no new wars, and then all of a sudden we go in and strike first on Iran. Now, we didn't really strike first, but you get the point, right? There's that's in the zeitgeist. Just like my friend in the GOP was talking about support for Trump waning, just like we saw Harry Enton say, to the extent that there really is a lack of support, I almost completely 100% believe it's totally centered around the anti-war faction of the Republican Party and the anti-Israel faction of the Republican Party, both having fits and, hits and fits, hisses and fits and hisses and fits over the Iran issue. So incredibly important politically, super important geopolitically, and potentially a huge turning point in the history of the world, right? That's kind of everything that's going on here. Up till now, I believe the count is 9 times that we've had a decapitating, civilization ending strike. Hey, let's go talk, ceasefire. Okay, we're back to fighting. Okay, we're talking again with 9 times, on, off, 9 times. Now, that's actually pretty good. In 5 months to have 5 capitulations of some sort, it's actually not the worst. But here's Trey Yanks giving us an update on what's been happening with Iran. Because again, this is literally like day by day.
President Trump indicated that a deal with Iran could happen as early as today. In an interview with Fox News, the president said talks took place all day on Tuesday and that very good things are happening. He told Trace Gallagher what would happen if Iran backs out of this agreement.
Other presidents or other countries should have been able to do this. And I did something that I had to do because if they had a nuclear weapon, this whole world would be a different place.
If they back out again, are they done?
Well, if they back out again, they're going to get hit really hard. They know that. They understand that. I have no choice. They can't have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple.
The focus remains on the Strait of Hormuz, a critical international waterway that handles roughly 20% of the world's oil and LNG trade. CENTCOM released a statement saying the southern route through the Strait of Hormuz remains free and open for all commercial vessels seeking to transit the international waterway. The statement goes on to say, over the past 3 months, U.S. forces have assisted more than 1,000 vessels in successfully transiting the strait despite unwarranted Iranian aggression, and these transits continue today. Right now, talks are ongoing between Iran and Oman, aimed at reaching an understanding on control of the strait. The issue remains a primary objective for all parties, even as the Iranians make conflicting public statements.
They can never have a nuclear weapon. The president's been clear about that. So the denuclearization of Iran is the ultimate deal. I think the immediate deal, the one that you're seeing a lot of focus on, is the straits. The straits, there are ships moving through the straits. There's oil moving right now through the straits. So the straits are open. Nonetheless, I think that there's a conversation and negotiation that we are involved in between Oman and Iran on how more ships can be able to go through there safely in the short term.
We're also tracking reports of an attack on a vessel off the coast of Yemen, likely conducted by the Iran-backed Houthis.
So oil prices went up over the weekend, then oil prices came down on these announcements. So it is a lot of whiplash. Gosh, the prices at the pump don't change fast enough, do they? They do not change fast enough. Here's Trump in that interview. This is a different part of it where he's talking about what's going to happen when this Iran thing resolves. Guess what, guys? He's pretty sure gas prices will come down.
When the strait is opened up, they'll never have a nuclear weapon. But if the strait opens up, and it's partially opened anyway, and as you know, we control the strait totally through the blockade. But if we have no friction, then oil will go down to, I think it'll go down to $2.50 a gallon, $2.50. You know, it was down to $1.85 before I had to make this little journey to the Islamic Republic of Iran. I had to make it. We had the best numbers that anybody's ever seen. But now you take a look with that going on. We have you just hit to get today. I think it's number 79 days. We hit an all-time stock market high.
Yep.
401ks are the highest they've ever been by double and triple.
Yep.
And then I read where we're doing badly on the economy. By the way, job numbers. We have more people working in the United States today than ever in history. We're doing an unbelievable job. Where the strait is opened up.
You know, one of the challenges with the position he's in is we probably are doing really great in certain metrics. Problem is nobody can trust any of the numbers, right? We know inflation numbers are funky. We know employment voting numbers are funky. They're still making adjustments up or down, which means they're never getting it right. So it was probably good. I mean, he's probably looking at some sheet and he's going, yep, more, naturalized Americans are working, less immigrants are working, it's like seeing all the good numbers. But if you're just a normal person, like a lot of this is localized. Are you near a factory? Are you working in construction? Like a lot of people are still struggling. And unfortunately, once inflation happens, it doesn't go back down. There's a couple things like, food stuffs can kind of go up and down in price like gasoline can. But for the most part, once a 2x4 costs what a 2x4 costs, it costs what it costs. Once certain things are priced, prices really don't come down. Have you ever seen a restaurant lower their prices when they do a menu update? I haven't. So once prices go up, they stay up, and it hurts people a lot. So yeah, very, very good stuff there. There's another thing that popped up yesterday that I did not see coming. It came out of nowhere. And this is a situation between Bernie Moreno and Representative Max Miller. So for a little bit of context here, Max Miller was married to Bernie Moreno's daughter, and they are currently going through a fairly nasty divorce proceeding of some sort, or they are divorced, and it's just nasty. So between Representative Max Miller, and Bernie Moreno, there's very bad blood. I was totally unaware of this. I didn't even know that they were related that way. So Max Miller married Bernie Moreno's daughter. Okay. They've gone through a nasty divorce. So yesterday I saw this whole drama pop up on my feed. So let's take a listen. This is kind of the order in which I discovered this.
So I meet him at the Bay Village police station.
What was he talking about?
Because that's the place that we have to go to meet, because I don't know what this guy's capable of.
When I first heard this, I assumed he was talking about some stalker or something like that. He's talking about a United States congressman.
She comes over, gets in our car, we drive away, and if anybody's a parent, she has a little blue bunny that she sleeps with.
What?
Max would not hand over the little blue bunny. Literally held it hostage for 48 hours. This girl is crying at night because she can't sleep without her little blue bunny. And his answer is, I'm just not going to give it to you. So finally yesterday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, yesterday, he lets the little blue bunny go. This is the level of total and complete depravity.
So I was like, Blue Bunny, Max? What? Meeting at a police station? What is he talking about? Like I said, this clip popped up. I was like, what? What's going on here? So I had to do a little digging. I was like, this is the weirdest story I've ever seen. So then it continues on. I find another clip. It's like this. And again, my eyebrows are like, what is going on here?
When he went out and did what he did, including releasing photos of my granddaughter completely naked. But now you have hundreds of thousands of psychotic human beings that have that. And to say, oops, is grotesque. My personal opinion is that this is a felony and that every single human being that touched that photo and transmitted it electronically should go to jail because it is illegal to do that. When he went out and did what he did.
Not only did he keep the little girl's bunny, and apparently that was on a custody swap. They had to do the custody swap at a police station because they can't trust the congressman. He kept the bunny as a vindictive act. And then apparently he released some information that included in it a completely nude photo of his granddaughter, of Max's daughter. And now that's out there on the internet. I was like, holy cow. So I went through and listened to the rest of this, and essentially it's just a nasty divorce. And just like many nasty divorce, there's a custody challenge. The kids are being used as leverage. Bernie Moreno's daughter fears Max Blumenthal, not like an acute, he's going to come shoot me right now fear, but he's emotionally, he's physically, he's abusive. He's just an abusive person to her. And that's what, she alleges. Now, Max Miller ended up getting on CNN with Jake Tapper, and they had a good little confrontation here. And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, you be the judge of this story. You be the judge of the character, because obviously we can't trust everything a judge decides or a divorce lawyer, or, especially when you've got power involved here with elected officials and you've got too powerful, a senator and a congressman duking it out. This is crazy stuff. But this is Max on with CNN because, of course, as a congressman, he's running for re-election every 2 years. So he's up for re-election right now. Now there's pressure on him to step down because the House Ethics Committee has opened an investigation on him.
From the suspected child abuse incident in February involving your daughter, and that report details
Okay, so now, again, this story I didn't see coming. It popped up for me. I was like, whoa, this thing came out of nowhere. Totally didn't see it coming. So Max Blumenthal, right? There's domestic violence allegations. That's more than just keeping a little blue bunny over the weekend.
Protection team says that your child had a right clavicle fracture and, quote, a bruise that accompanies the injury that appears to be in a handprint and appears to have been inflicted, unquote. Now, your ex-wife stated to police that your child told her in the days leading up to the discovery of the injury, quote, "Daddy, kill you." And your ex-wife also said your child had said, "Daddy angry and Daddy's house is scary." Now, according to your wife, your daughter articulated these statements to Children and Family Services. So can you explain why your child may have said those things?
Jake, I wish you could talk to my beautiful baby girl. She can't string together sentences like that. She's 2.5 years old. She doesn't have the ability to articulate any of what you just said. That is an entire fabrication of the truth. I have actual video, actual documentation.
But didn't you just tell me that
through two investigations.
You just told me that she had said that she was scared to go to mommy's house.
She is, and I have video of it.
But now you're saying that she's not capable of saying, "Daddy, kill you"? I mean, it seems like she's either able to say one but not the other.
Jake,
that doesn't make sense.
Jake, to be very direct, this is incredibly disturbing. I am not going to my child to say, "Daddy, kill you." You have to look at the timing of everything that is taking place, right? What about due process? I have already been through these investigations, and I know that I've said that now 3 times, and we're kind of just blowing past this. But these are individuals who do their jobs to protect kids. And the main job of the court and the main job of Child Protective Family Services and the main job of our judge who has been appointed to our divorce case is to make sure that our daughter is safe. And every single one of those individuals has agreed with me. I have full shared.
Okay, so obviously he's correct. Up till now, the judges have allowed the calf custody and all that stuff, so the judges haven't deemed it a big enough threat. Do we trust the judges? Do we trust anything? That's the crazy thing about all this. I mean, you can either cry or you can laugh because tragedy and comedy are so close together. But it's a tragedy. So let's laugh at it. It's like we can't trust anything here, right? We don't know if the best interest of anybody is being protected at all. This is so political. And like I said, this story popped out of nowhere, some really bad blood in the Republican Party. So, because I'm sure people pick sides between, these two guys here. Wow. So then Max Miller was on Finnerty's show, and Finnerty really put him to the fire here. He wanted him to step aside.
The most is somebody who is resilient. And can I tell you something?
Innocent people don't run from these battles. And that's why I'm not running. And that's
I agree
why
with you there. I agree with you there. But that was Donald Trump was running for president. This is a totally different station. You're not Donald Trump. And if we're talking about, I think you said 2016, that's the Access Hollywood tape. Those are just words. We're talking about what possible physical abuse. They're not the same. That's a yes. You're staying in this race. Nothing's going to, if the president called you tonight and asked you to drop out, you're staying in this race?
yes, there's no chance that I'm removing myself from this race.
Okay.
I went on Jake Tapper earlier. I said the same thing to him.
Okay.
If I needed to tweet it out from the rooftops to let everybody know.
Yeah, Congressman, I have to ask. And I wish you the best of luck, and I appreciate all your time. Max Miller, thank you.
Thank you.
So he's not stepping down, and I honestly believe he's going to lose his race. He's going to lose his race because stuff like this is usually what sinks races, right? It's the allegation that you can't really get around, like up in Maine, Plattner. I mean, he could get around allegation after allegation, but the moment there was one with a little bit of teeth, the rape allegation, he pulled out. This Max situation, he's going to have a lot of pressure. I bet we find out very, very quickly if he pulls out or not. Gives the Republicans a chance to slide someone else in there. But if he keeps his name on the ballot, the Republicans are going to lose that seat. You're just not going to get Republicans out to vote for a guy like that. The Democrats are just going to pound him with this. Pound him with it. Yesterday, Trump was on the tarmac, and he was being asked about this vandal that had his case dropped by Jeanine Pirro in D.C. This is the reflecting pool vandal. So Trump was asked about Jeanine Pirro and if he was upset with her. And then he was asked if she was safe, like as if he was going to fire her or not.
And everybody saw the vandalism. All you have to do is look at the tape. If you look at the tape, plus we have a witness or two witnesses that saw the vandalism. So certainly when there was vandalism, it was actually, in my opinion, it was major vandalism. And I told her I was not happy. Is she safe? Are you going to keep her in the position? I haven't made a determination.
Is she safe, or are you going to keep you in the position? Ooh. Now, I actually, on this one, I don't know about Jeanine Pirro, okay? But at the same time, remember, Trump got her in. We were going to have Ed Martin. Ed Martin got pushed aside. Jeanine got in. If Jeanine leaves, are we going to have the same problem we've had with like Todd Blanche and the other nominations? Is Trump going to be able to put someone that we really like, or is it going to be more middle? I don't know. So I'm not sure that we want her to go, but I think her legal hands were tied. The contractor had repair work, therefore they were going to have to fix what was later vandalized regardless. So cut or not, that liner at that section apparently was coming out regardless. And so that is the legal issue she was up against. I agree with Trump. They vandalized it. Punish them. The problem is, from a legal standpoint, if it was already broken, can you be charged for breaking something that's already broken? I'm surprised they didn't just hit him with like trespassing or public nuisance or, any number of charges. But yeah, Trump's not happy about it. Another thing, Trump changing the world. Guess what? Daylight savings time, it's probably about to become a thing of the past. For many years, the vast majority of Americans have asked to make daylight savings time permanent, but no administration has been able to get it done until now. I am proud to announce that the House of Representatives have passed the bill and has now gone to the Senate for final approval. People are sick and tired of having to change their clocks twice a year. It is a foolish, inconvenient, and in some cases, very costly. For cities and states with watchtowers and hard-to-reach places, it costs millions of dollars. A recent case was made that it was also bad for your health, and in the anxiety it creates, leading medical and economic studies have shown that ceasing the biannual time change, giving us 1 extra hour of natural sunlight in the evenings, will help decrease robbery and murder rates, reduce car accidents, especially those involving pedestrians, lower risk for cardiac disease, stroke, and seasonal depression, make it safer for children to walk home from school, increase your time with family, strongly support extracurricular activities, boost the sports, fitness, tourism, retail, and restaurant industries, and more, and save energy on energy bills. Because everyone will be enjoying an extra hour of daylight. In other words, leave it as it is now and never change it again. This is an issue that Republicans, Democrats, and independents can unite behind. I am asking Republican senators to release their holds and allow the hotline to clear on the Republican side. Let's pass the Sunshine Protection Act ASAP. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, I've asked this question before. I don't know exactly why daylight saving time was instituted. I've been told it had something to do with farmers and getting up early and kids going to school. I don't know. But nonetheless, that's good news. Okay. Another one came out yesterday from Trump. These are policy changes. They're significant enough. For too long, radical climate activists attempted to hold our great country hostage by drastically and unreasonably expanding the intended scope of the Endangered Species Act. This is very true. This was complete and total regulatory overreach by unelected bureaucrats. They treated Americans very unfairly by stiffing the production of important resources like oil, natural gas, and timber by blocking the construction of family homes and critical infrastructure. Even our military couldn't train on land that was deemed off limits to protect a little rodent. Now my administration has returned the Endangered Species Act to how it was intended to be, just as the great Justice Anton Scalia has explained in previous cases. While responsibly protecting our beautiful country, the United States of America is going to build again. Thank you for your attention to this matter, Donald J. Trump. So, putting the Endangered Species Act in check. Can't hate that one. Another thing, this is an interview between Emerald Robinson, who I quite love. I think she's a very on the front reporter. She's been all over the election integrity stuff. And is this this isn't Dr. Phil. This is Dr. Drew and Dr. Drew. So she was on Dr. Drew's show, but this is being broadcast on Emerald Robinson's show. And this is an important clip. Dr. Drew has a reach that kind of goes into the Maha world. These are the people that are not primarily concerned with election integrity and things like that. These are people that are kind of on the medical side. They're anti-COVID. So it's a good group to go talk about kind of the bigger election, geopolitical power plays that are happening in there, because when Maha's upset because something's not happening, it might be because there's a compromise with the bigger picture. So let's take a couple minutes and let's listen to Emerald Robinson talk to Dr. Drew about everything that's been going on with Venezuela, election integrity, and intelligence infiltration into our government.
I'm also hearing that Cuba has been really involved in all the DSA stuff and getting, you're smiling when I say that. Tell me what you know.
Yeah, and this is something that hasn't been widely reported either, and that I do know that the Trump administration is looking into. You got to remember that so a lot of people don't know this, but there was a pivot away from the Western Hemisphere, and that was not by accident, that was by design, and that was enacted by John Brennan during his time at the CIA. He had told station chiefs in the CIA in Latin America that they were going to pivot away from Cuban and Venezuelan intelligence. Okay, so they were turning a blind eye on purpose for years now in regards to the activity from Cuba and Venezuela, and they turned many of our officials. We actually have names. We have names because a former high-ranking Venezuelan official who is now in custody, okay, he is cooperating with our government because he was brought in on money laundering and drug trafficking charges. He was about to go to trial this summer before they finally got a deal with him, a plea deal, and they made him a cooperating witness, for favor in sentencing. His name is Hugo Carvajal. He has given names. He says he witnessed and he himself paid off U.S. officials. So we have that. We have officials who have been compromised by Cuba and Venezuela. And I just want to say, Dr. Drew, your characterization of our intelligence community's actions in regards to China is more accurate. That is the way to describe it. They were collaborating with China. Not only are they collaborating with China, they're collaborating with Cuba and Venezuela as a part of this. Now, what I think and what I'm being told.
Hang on, slow your thought. Slow it really quick before you make that conclusion. And then let's slide on over to COVID, where China, whatever China said, we followed, right? Those Chinese scientists, they're the best. Look what they did in Wuhan. They got a zero COVID outbreak. We need zero COVID. What did they do? Let's follow their demands. It's crazy how it wasn't even a collaborative relationship with China. It was almost we were zombies. We were in their thrall and didn't really know it. It seems to me, and we're pulling away from it and going, oh my God, kind of waking up. Look what we did. But finish your thought about Cuba and Venezuela.
Well, and I will just say to that was another example of where the intelligence community covered up for China, right?
Yes.
They tried their best to cover up the origins of the COVID lab.
Yeah, it all seems very, listen, I was in the scientific world at the time, and we were absolutely, I heard these words all the time. The center of gravity of biological research has moved to China. So we got to get, let's work with those guys. We're always working with them. Never a thought to there being a governmental sort of, that the People's Liberation Army had their finger on the scale or anything else, or were watching us. It's just, oh, there's good science. Here we go. And they were in the epidemic business. They were the core of the epidemic. What was that trial run, the war game they did with the epidemic? That was highly attended by China.
Yeah, that was in October of 2019. They gamed out a novel coronavirus that would cause a widespread global pandemic, and how they would do lockdowns, right? They war gamed it. They knew what they were doing. And then our intelligence community was covering for them, like they did in the 2020 election, and with what we're seeing now as it relates to election crimes and election fraud. What you have to understand is not just China. They are obviously Venezuela and Cuba have been Iran and China's, nexus into the Western Hemisphere. That's where they all kind of meet together, and you have Chinese influence China's greatly influential in Venezuela. And that brings us to the voting machines, if you'd like to look at, how they factor into this. And that's why I am being told you're going to see come next from the administration. Now, sometimes you're told these things and they don't happen. They might just be trying to tell me what I want to hear, but I am told we're going to see more intelligence related to that. But honestly, there's a lot of open source information that you didn't even have to, release the underlying intelligence. So there's a lot of it.
There's a lot of it. And we've covered a lot of it on this show. That is great news. I'm excited. Hopefully that is the next thing we hear about. So as you can see, that's a pretty significant, you can't underestimate these guys like Dr. Drew that have 250,000 people every day that listen to their show. They're not the biggest show out there. They're no Joe Rogan, but they know everybody. They're networked. Everybody knows Dr. Drew, the love doctor, right? That's him right there. And so 250,000 people who probably don't follow election integrity issues very closely because they're more on the COVID interest or Maha interest. They just heard something they may have never heard before. All of a sudden, now what we're doing in Iran and Venezuela starts to make more sense. It's a big deal. And like we mentioned all the time, right? Trump is changing the world. Glenn Beck yesterday, in discussing Trump's agenda with Liz Wheeler, presented something that I thought was really interesting. I think this is a really good explanation of what's trying to accomplish. But Glenn Beck acknowledges something that we also have to acknowledge. The end is not predetermined, right? We have a say in this, and we have a say in how things are going.
When you say that these are indications that President Trump is resetting the world order, and the implication of that?
Donald Trump is changing the new world order entirely, and it won't be fully understood for probably another 5 to 10 years. That on top of he says it's over $20 trillion of investment. Let's just say it's 10 trillion. $10 trillion in building new factories here at home. So we are making things again with AI, with the rebuilding of factories, with the dominance of energy and oil. I'm sorry, gang, but the world doesn't work without real energy, without gas, LP, and oil. With controlling the choke points, getting out of the Middle East, hopefully, if this works, he's completely redesigned the entire world. He has made a bigger impact than any other president, maybe since Lincoln. He becomes one of the most impactful presidents of all time, if it works. That jury is still out. But if it works, he changes the entire course of the world. Everything that he has done is 100% America first. The problem is nobody in the media will explain it. Everybody wants to look at everything he does as a one-off. And you know what? If I hadn't been traveling with him during the election, I don't know if I would have seen it as quickly as I did. This guy has been thinking this through forever. People try to make him look like a bumbling idiot, and they don't realize there is genius behind this. There is real strategy. He tried to fix America's economy. What happened? The next guy comes in, destroys it all. He's trying to fix it. So by fixing the bigger problems, the structural problems that start overseas with the WEF and all of our trade agreements and tariffs and everything else, by fixing those, he believes I can fix the economy long term. If you can get there, we save the world, not just the nation. we save the world.
Why do you think that people don't see the strategy?
They've fallen into the trap. The enemy is Donald Trump. The enemy is the pedophile government, whatever the enemy is. And if you just say that's the enemy, you can get all of these people who believe all these different things to stand together. And it's imperative that for those of us who actually believe in the country, we don't engage in the grievance. We engage instead on, we hold these truths to be self-evident. This is what we need to fix and rebuild, not what we're going to destroy, what we're going to rebuild.
Yep. What are we going to rebuild? And that is the difference with Donald Trump. He's going out and correcting the systemic problems. I hope I do a halfway decent job of bringing these issues to light, of surfacing these issues so that you guys can see them as peasants. We have to live here. We have to think long term. We have to think about our children's futures 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. Obviously, this is a daily news show with commentary. You know, this Max Miller thing and Bernie Moreno thing, not going to affect us. Here, though, it could blow up. It could be big mainstream news, will not affect the price of lettuce 1 penny. But the stuff that Donald Trump's doing could change the trajectory of the whole world. And the people that oppose him could also change the trajectory of the whole world. The buses will be free. How we get there, that's up to us. All right, guys, that's it for me today. Thank you so much for joining me. Please don't forget to check leftbehindandwithout.org, 1776live.us, politicalremodel.com, and take back my county. We all need your help, and you can do it. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.